Fellow Stoic, they never wanted you to know this. Your silence is more powerful than any argument. Here's why the strongest minds stay quiet after disrespect. When someone insults you, your first instinct might be to snap back, defend yourself, or prove them wrong. That's what they expect. That's what they want. Because the moment you react, they win. They drag you down to their level. They make you the fool. But the wisest minds in history, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, knew a secret weapon that turns the tables completely: silence. They fear your silence because it robs them of power. It exposes their weakness. It forces them to wrestle with their own insecurity. They want you to fight, to argue, to lose your composure. But when you say nothing, you stand above them, untouchable, indestructible. Today, you will discover why reacting to disrespect only weakens you, how Stoics turn silence into a weapon of strength, and the hidden psychological effect of not engaging. If you've ever been insulted, mocked, or undermined, this video will give you the ultimate revenge, power through indifference. If you're ready to take back control, comment yes right now. And keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to master the art of silence. Why people disrespect others. You've felt it before. That sting of an insult, the sharp edge of a careless remark that lingers in your mind long after the moment has passed. Maybe it was a sneering comment from a coworker, a passive-aggressive jab from a so-called friend, or even a cutting remark from someone you trusted. In that instant, your body tensed, your mind raced, and you felt the instinctive urge to retaliate, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. That reaction is natural, but here's the truth they never told you. Every time you engage, every time you let their words affect you, you hand over your power. The moment you feel the need to justify yourself, you're already playing their game. But what if you didn't? What if you let their words fall into nothingness, unacknowledged, unreturned, leaving them scrambling for control they can no longer steal from you? This is the power of silence, and the reason why truly strong individuals, true Stoics, don't waste their breath on those who seek to provoke them. The need to insult others never comes from a place of strength. Think about the people in your life who are genuinely secure, wise, and at peace with themselves. Do they waste their energy belittling others? Do they seek validation by tearing others down? Of course not. Disrespect, insults, and mockery come from people who are ruled by their own weaknesses, fear, insecurity, envy. When someone disrespects you, it is a confession of their own turmoil. They want to see you react because your reaction feeds their illusion of control. They are desperate to make you play their game because it distracts them from their own inadequacies. They mask their own self-doubt by projecting it onto you, hoping you will flinch, hoping you will doubt yourself, hoping you will stoop to their level. And that's a tragedy. They are unaware that their cruelty is a reflection of their suffering. Their insults are not about you. They never were. Seneca once wrote, "The words of the ignorant should be treated like the barking of stray dogs. They are not worth your anger, nor even your attention." Letter 76.4. This is what they don't want you to realize. Your silence exposes their weakness. It forces them to confront themselves. When you refuse to engage, when you let their words dissipate into nothing, you hold up a mirror they cannot avoid. They are left to wrestle with their own dissatisfaction, their own internal conflict, their own lack of control. Epictetus understood this deeply when he said, "When someone acts badly toward you, consider what view of good or evil led them to act that way. Once you understand that, you will feel compassion rather than anger." Discourses 1.18.3. This is not about tolerating disrespect. It's about transcending it. It's about recognizing that their attack is not an indication of your worth, but of their own ignorance. And there is nothing more unsettling to them than a person who remains unshaken, unbothered, and utterly indifferent to their attempts at provocation. And here's where the transformation begins. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you refuse to play their game, something shifts. At first, they may lash out harder, desperate for reaction. They may increase their insults, raise their voice, become more aggressive, because silence is terrifying to those who thrive on conflict. But soon, cracks begin to form. They hesitate. They second-guess themselves. They feel the weight of their own words and the silence you leave behind. And then something even more powerful happens. Others start to notice. They see you holding your ground with calm dignity. They see the one throwing insults losing their composure while you remain unfazed. Your silence earns you respect. Your indifference makes their attack seem small, petty, even foolish. People start to question, why is the quiet one in control while the loud one is unraveling? This is where true power lies, not in engaging, not in fighting back, but in remaining still while the storm rages around you, knowing it cannot touch you. This is why the greatest minds in history embrace silence in the face of disrespect. It's why Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling the most powerful empire in the world, refused to be moved by the opinions of others. It's why Epictetus, born a slave and rising to become one of the greatest philosophers of all time, dismissed insults as meaningless. It's why Seneca, surrounded by the ruthless politics of Rome, held himself above petty squabbles. They understood that the battle was never with others, it was always within. And once you master that battle, once you learn to control your own mind, you become unstoppable. You strip away the power of others to disturb you. You stand above their insults, their mockery, their attempts to break you. You become unshakable. Come in control if you refuse to let others dictate your emotions. And keep watching, because next, we'll reveal exactly why Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught that insult should mean nothing to you. The Stoic approach to insults. You've been there before. Someone throws a harsh insult your way, whether it's a cool remark disguised as a joke, a backhanded compliment, or a blatant attempt to humiliate you in front of others. Your heart pounds. Your mind races. You feel the weight of their words pressing down on you, demanding a response. Maybe you've spent hours, even days, replaying a moment like this in your head, thinking of all the things you should have said, all the ways you could have put them in their place. But what if I told you that the strongest response wasn't a clever comeback or sharp retort, but something far more powerful? Nothing at all. Because when you truly understand the Stoic approach to insults, you'll see that responding isn't just unnecessary, it's a trap. A trap designed to pull you into a battle where the only way to lose is to engage. This is where most people struggle. The natural instinct when insulted is to defend yourself, to prove that you're not weak, that you won't be disrespected. That's exactly what they expect. They want you to argue, to fight back, to let them drag you into a conflict that they control. But the moment you react, you've already given them what they want. You've made their words matter. You've allowed them to dictate your emotions. And the irony is, even if you win the argument, you still lose, because the real victory was in never playing the game at all. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire, understood this deeply. He wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Meditations 4.7. This means that no insult, no matter how vicious, has the power to hurt you unless you allow it to. The words themselves are meaningless. They are just sounds, just empty air. The only meaning they carry is the meaning you choose to assign to them. Seneca once advised, if you wish to receive no harm, do not regard yourself as harmed. Letters 81.19. Think about that. The moment you decide an insult has wounded you, you make it real. But if you dismiss it, if you refuse to grant it any significance, then it is nothing. Epictetus took this idea even further, offering one of the most brutally effective responses to insults. If someone tells you that a person speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself against accusations, but reply, "Yes, and they do not even know the half of it." Enchiridion 33. This is not sarcasm, nor is it self-deprecation. It is complete detachment. It is the ultimate display of indifference. Because the moment you show that you are unbothered, that you are untouchable, you take away their power. You leave them grasping for control that no longer exists. You make their insult meaningless, not because you have ignored it, but because you have transcended it. And this is when something incredible happens. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you refuse to engage, you shift the balance of power entirely in your favor. At first, they may double down, pushing harder, trying to provoke you further. But soon, cracks begin to appear. They start to question themselves. They wonder why their words are not having the effect they expected. And then, they start to feel small. Because an insult that goes unanswered is an insult that boomerangs back to its source. Others begin to notice. 2. They see the contrast between your composure and the other person's desperation. They see someone scrambling for validation while you remain unshaken. Your silence, your indifference, becomes a statement louder than any argument you could have made. And slowly, the very people who sought to break you with their words begin to crumble under the weight of their own insecurity. This is why true Stoics, those who have mastered themselves, never waste their energy on petty words. They understand that insults are nothing more than a reflection of the person speaking them. They know that reacting is a sign of weakness, of being controlled by external forces. They see that real strength is not in silencing others, but in being so powerful that their words no longer reach you. When you reach this level of mastery, you don't just avoid the pain of insults, you turn them into a source of power. You let others reveal their own weakness while you stand firm, untouched, immovable. Marcus Aurelius, a man who faced betrayals, political attacks, and constant criticism, maintained his serenity because he understood this fundamental truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Meditation 4.3, and that strength is what separates you from the rest. Comment unbothered if you refuse to let their words shake you. Because the real secret is this: your silence does more than protect you. It destroys them. And in the next section, we'll uncover the hidden psychological power of saying nothing. You might be thinking, but won't staying silent make me look weak? Won't it show that I'm afraid? That's exactly what they want you to believe. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is power. Silence creates uncertainty. It makes them question themselves. And when they start doubting, they start losing. Before we get to the final techniques, make sure to subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. Share this video with someone who needs it. And if you want to support the channel, click the super thanks button below. Now, let's get back to revealing why silence makes them powerless. The psychological power of silence. You know that moment. The one where someone hurls an insult at you, a cool remark meant to provoke a reaction, and your entire body tenses. Your pulse quickens. Your mind instantly crafts a dozen responses, each sharper than the last. You feel the pull of the argument, the urge to defend yourself, to put them in their place, to show them that you are not to be disrespected. But deep down, there's also something else, a whisper telling you that engaging in this battle only lowers you to their level, that responding only gives their words power over you. This is a crossroads where most people lose their strength. They let anger dictate their response. They let someone else's words disrupt their peace. But what if you did something different? What if, instead of reacting, you simply stayed silent? What if you let them throw their words into the void, where they would echo back only to themselves? Because here's what they never tell you: silence is not weakness. Silence is a weapon. And the moment you master it, you shift the entire balance of power in your favor. Silence in the face of conflict is one of the most difficult disciplines to master because it goes against every instinct you have. From childhood, we are conditioned to believe that standing up for ourselves means speaking up, pushing back, proving our worth. We see silence as surrender, as backing down, as letting someone else win. But that's an illusion. The truth is that the person who needs to insult others, the one who raises their voice, who demands a reaction, who thrives on provocation, that person is weak. They insult because they crave control. They belittle because they fear their own insignificance. And the moment you refuse to respond, the moment you meet their word with nothing but indifference, their world begins to crumble. Seneca put it simply: a wise man is not perturbed by insult. He looks with disdain upon vulgar abuse. It is beneath him. Letters 104.5. Think about that. When you say nothing, you rise above the conflict entirely. You force them to sit alone with their own hostility, to drown in the silence you leave behind. And it is in that silence that their insecurity festers. This is what they fear most. The lack of response forces them into a space they cannot control. When someone insults you, they expect resistance, retaliation, a verbal clash that feeds their ego. But when they receive silence instead, something remarkable happens. They begin to question themselves. Did I go too far? Why aren't they reacting? Do they know something I don't? Their own mind starts to betray them. The need for validation, for dominance, for control, it turns inward, eating away at them. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply, writing, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." Meditations 4.7. This is not just about ignoring insults, it's about robbing them of meaning entirely. An insult that is ignored does not exist. A person who insults and receives no reaction is left in the dark, uncertain, powerless. They begin to see that their words have no hold over you, and in that moment, their entire illusion of power collapses. And this is where the transformation happens, not just in how they see you, but in how you see yourself. The moment you refuse to engage, you step into true strength. You begin to feel it internally, that shift from reacting to ruling over your own emotions. You notice a change in the way people respond to you. The loudest voices suddenly seem small. The people who once tested your patience now appear desperate. Those who relied on manipulation find themselves lost when faced with your calm, unwavering presence. You begin to embody the Stoic ideal, the ability to remain unshaken no matter what storm surrounds you. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that it's not just about handling insults. It's about mastering every aspect of your life. You stop giving away your energy to trivial conflicts. You stop being controlled by the moods and opinions of others. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet confidence that commands respect. This is why the greatest minds of history understood the power of silence. It was never about running from confrontation. It was about choosing your battles with wisdom. The one who remains silent in the face of provocation is not avoiding the fight. They are winning it without lifting a finger. They are forcing the other person to defeat themselves. And that is the ultimate victory. This is a path of the Stoic. To let others waste their breath while you conserve your energy. To let others seek validation while you remain secure in yourself. To let others lose control while you remain steadfast. Because the truth is, the person who cannot provoke you, who cannot shake you, who cannot make you react, they are the ones who are truly powerless. Comment power if you refuse to give them the reaction they crave. Because now, you know the truth. Your silence is not just a shield, it is a weapon. And in the next section, we'll uncover exactly how to master emotional control in every conflict. Mastering emotional control in conflict. You know the feeling. That surge of heat in your chest, the tightening of your jaw, the pounding of your heart when someone challenges you, disrespects you, or tries to provoke you. You tell yourself to stay calm, but the impulse to react is overwhelming. It's not just about the words they said. It's about the principle of it, the sheer injustice of letting them get away with it. A part of you fears that if you don't respond, if you don't put them in their place, they'll see it as weakness. But deep down, you know the truth. Reacting emotionally gives them control. It means they have successfully dictated your state of mind, shifting your emotions like a puppet on strings. You've seen this happen before, maybe in an argument with a friend, a co-worker, or even a stranger. And every time, the outcome was the same. The more you let emotions drive your actions, the less control you had. But what if I told you that you never have to feel that way again? That there's a way to remain completely in control, no matter what is said, no matter what happens around you. That the power to dictate your response, and therefore your reality, belongs solely to you. Mastering emotional control is not about suppression. It's not about pretending you don't feel anger, frustration, or hurt. It's about learning to own those emotions, to observe them without being consumed by them. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions. They are like ships tossed in a storm, reacting to every wave, every gust of wind, without direction or stability. Someone insults them, and they lash out. Someone disagrees with them, and they become defensive. They are ruled by whatever feelings arise in the moment. And in doing so, they hand over their power to everyone and everything outside of them. Epictetus warned against this very thing, teaching that if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Discourses 2.18.8. This means that no one can make you angry, no one can force you to react. You choose to let them affect you. The insult itself is meaningless until you give it weight. The challenge before you is not about controlling others, but about mastering yourself. And that begins with one simple but powerful tool, the pause. Epictetus taught that before reacting to anything, you must stop, pause for just a moment, and ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? 99% of the time, the answer is no. This is not avoidance. This is power. Marcus Aurelius, who faced constant opposition and betrayal as emperor, understood this deeply. He reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Meditations 4.3. The key to true emotional mastery is this realization that nothing outside of you has the ability to control you unless you allow it to. If you pause, breathe, and detach before responding, you reclaim that control instantly. The person yelling at you no longer dictates your mood. The insult thrown at you no longer wounds your pride. The attempt to provoke you falls flat, dissipating like smoke in the wind. This is where they fail. They let their emotions dictate their actions. They are prisoners to their impulses. You, on the other hand, are training yourself to be steady, unshakable, something most people never achieve. And that, my friend, is how you win. Once you begin practicing this, something remarkable happens. At first, it feels unnatural. Your old instinct will push against it, begging you to react, to prove a point, to fight back. But then you start to notice a shift. The things that used to upset you don't hold the same power anymore. You find yourself unfazed in situations that once would have consumed you. You see people scrambling for a reaction while you remain calm. And the more you do this, the stronger you become. Others begin to sense it. 2. They recognize that you are not easily rattled. They respect your presence, your discipline, your ability to remain centered when everyone else is losing themselves. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Your peace, your power, speaks for itself. And in that moment, you realize this isn't just about handling conflict. This is about who you are becoming. A person who cannot be manipulated, who cannot be provoked, who cannot be thrown off course. A person who commands respect not through force, but through unshakable presence. This is what the great Stoics mastered, and this is what you are now beginning to embody. The world is filled with people who react without thinking, who lash out, who waste their energy on meaningless battles. But you are different. You are learning to pause, to breathe, to choose your responses with intention, not impulse, to let others exhaust themselves while you remain steady, composed, in control. This is how you separate yourself from the weak-minded. This is how you elevate yourself beyond petty conflicts. This is how you become invincible, not because you don't feel, but because you refuse to be ruled by what you feel. And when you reach this level, when you no longer need validation, when you no longer let insults dictate your mood, when you no longer seek to win arguments but to transcend them, then, and only then, do you become truly free. Come in steady if you choose calm over chaos. Because now, you are no longer fighting for control. You are control. And for the final lesson, let's talk about the rare moments when speaking is the right move. There are times when silence is not the answer. Times when you should respond, but with wisdom, not emotion. This is where true mastery comes in. Keep watching to learn exactly when and how to speak with power, when to speak and when to stay silent. There comes a moment in every conflict where you stand at a crossroads. One path is silence, the discipline of holding your tongue, preserving your energy, and refusing to be drawn into the chaos of someone else's emotions. The other path is speech, the decision to respond, to assert yourself, to make your voice heard. In that moment, doubt creeps in. You wonder, if I stay silent, will they think they've won? If I speak, will I lose control? The fear of being seen as weak clashes with the wisdom of restraint, and you find yourself stuck between impulse and intention. But here's the truth. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent is one of the most powerful skills you can master. A fool speaks without thinking. A wise person speaks only when their words serve a purpose. And the difference between the two? Control. Those who cannot control their tongue are ruled by their emotions. Those who can rule over everything else. Most people talk too much. They speak to fill silence, to justify themselves, to soothe their insecurities. They argue not to find truth, but to win. And yet, how often does arguing change minds? How often does speaking from emotion rather than wisdom resolve anything? Rarely, if ever. This is where people fail. They speak when they should be silent, and they remain silent when they should speak. They let their ego decide rather than their wisdom. But the Stoics understood something most never will. Words are not just sounds. They are tools. If used carelessly, they cause damage to your credibility, to your relationships, to your inner peace. But if used with precision, with clarity, with purpose, they can shape the world. Seneca warned against reckless speech, writing. Speech should be carefully weighed, not flung out recklessly. Letter 75.5. This means that before you open your mouth, you must ask yourself, Is what I am about to say necessary? Will it add to this moment? Will it move the situation toward resolution? Or will it only feed the fire? If the answer is no, stay silent. If the answer is yes, speak, but only with calm authority. The great Stoics never feared using their voices. Marcus Aurelius, though known for his restraint, did not hesitate to speak when leadership required it. Epictetus, though once a slave, taught with unwavering conviction. Even Seneca, who often preached the wisdom of silence, knew when words were necessary. But what they all understood was that speech is only powerful when it is intentional. The difference between an ordinary person and a Stoic is not just what they say, but why they say it. Epictetus advised, be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary, and in few words. Enchiridion 33. This does not mean to live in silence. It means to be deliberate. It means to understand that the most powerful voice in the room is often the one that does not speak unless there is something worth saying. If you only speak when it serves a purpose, when it conveys truth, when it is rooted in reason rather than emotion, your word will carry far more weight than those who speak simply to be heard. And here is where you begin to notice the change. When you no longer feel the need to respond to every insult, every disagreement, every moment of tension, you start to feel a sense of power growing within you. You become selective with your words, knowing that they are valuable, that they should not be wasted. Others begin to notice as well. They see that when you speak, it is not out of insecurity, not out of the need to prove yourself, but out of clarity and purpose. And because you do not speak often, when you do, people listen. They recognize that your words are not impulsive, but deliberate, that you do not argue aimlessly, but with intention, that you are not driven by ego, but by wisdom. And in that moment, you realize that silence was never about surrender. It was about preparation, about waiting for the right moment, about choosing your battles, about ensuring that when you speak, it is impossible to ignore. This is why true mastery of speech is rare. Most people will never learn it. They will argue in circles, wasting words, wasting energy, chasing validation in the noise. But you are different. You are learning to pause, to reflect, to measure your word before you release them into the world. You are training yourself to speak only when it matters, to remain silent when it does not. And in doing so, you are stepping into a level of self-control most people will never reach. You are learning to command respect, not demand it, to influence through wisdom, not force, to win without fighting. Because the person who speaks little but with precision is always heard louder than the one who never stops talking. Comment power if you refuse to speak unless your words serve a purpose. Because now, you understand that silence is not the absence of power, it is a foundation of it. And when you do choose to speak, the world will listen. Mastering silence is not about simply withholding words, it is about mastering yourself. Think about the times you've spoken out of anger, frustration, or insecurity, only to regret it later. Think about the moments when someone provoked you, and you gave them exactly what they wanted. Your energy, your peace, your control. We have all been there, trapped in the cycle of reaction, letting words escape our lips before we had the chance to ask, is this necessary? Does this serve me? Does this strengthen me? And yet, silence is not just about avoiding mistakes. It is about wielding power. The ability to remain still while others flail, to stay composed while chaos unfolds, to observe while others reveal their hands. This is a mark of someone who is truly in control. The world conditions you to speak, to explain, to defend, to react. But true power? It belongs to those who know when to hold their tongue. Yet, silence is one of the hardest disciplines to master. It requires resisting the urge to justify yourself when misunderstood, to correct others when they twist your words, to fight back when attacked. The ego screams for validation, for retaliation, for recognition. It wants to be heard, to be acknowledged. But here's the truth. Those who cannot control their tongues reveal the weakness of their minds. Look at the world around you. People argue over trivial matters, ruin relationships over careless words, and waste their breath trying to change opinions that will never shift. Meanwhile, those who hold their silence are misjudged as passive, but in reality, they are calculating. They are preserving their energy for what truly matters. They are standing firm in the storm, untouched by the winds of emotion. They are learning, observing, growing stronger. You are not weak for staying silent. You are dangerous. Epictetus, the once enslaved philosopher who found freedom not through force but through discipline, warned his students about the power of words. He said, "Be silent for the most part, or say only what is necessary and in few words." Enchiridion 33.2. Why? Because every word we speak carries weight. It binds us, exposes us, and often betrays us. Silence, on the other hand, keeps us unpredictable. It forces others to wonder what we know, what we think, what we plan. The less you reveal, the more control you have, not just over others, but over yourself. If you are ready to embrace this power, to stand firm in your silence, and to move through life with unshakable control, comment "I am Stoic" below. Subscribe for more, share this message, and let us build a community of those who cannot be broken. Stay strong, stay silent, stay powerful,